Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Hopefully, everyone is doing well. So, this is my route going to work, and I'm taking you with you. I'm taking you guys with me while we chat around and we just chat a little bit and talk about a few things. So, I wanted to talk about now. Fair warning is we shall be talking about HR in Egypt and why is it one of the most notorious HRs? Like HR in Egypt and most of the times when you talk about bad HR or like quote unquote evil HR, it tends to be US and Egypt. Both of them tend to come on the top. Egypt is actually battling the US to be on the top of being like the worst. And I wanted to talk more about that, about why is it considered the worst, or why do I always say notorious, as a lot of other notorious things that Egypt are known for. You have to understand, first and foremost, the definition of HR, and then the Egyptian definition of HR. And that's basically it. That's kind of it. So, I mentioned before that HR originally was made to combat trade unions. So HR has always been, will always be pro the company. That's nothing, there's nothing wrong. Like, a lot of people be like, but aren't they supposed to be human resources? And then like the human part? Yeah, they're supposed to be the human part. But at the end of the day, their paycheck comes from the company. So yeah, they will do their best to protect the company. I'm not going to say they're going to completely screw you over, because that is not what HR, or at least that is not the new school of HR. The new school of HR is very human oriented, and yes, there are a lot of things that still, as HR, you can't do a thing about it, and you're pretty much sitting there going like, I'm going to have to deal with this storm. And you just smile and just brace yourself for whatever storm that is about to come. Between salary deductions, between terminations, between resignations, between exit interviews. I mean, these are the negative things that happen, but this is just how it is. It's just welcome to HR. It's part of being an HR. It's part of being an HR person. Is just, yeah, you gotta deal with the crap. And at the same time, you also get to deal with the nice things, like the promotions and the rewards, and convincing the owner that they can be a little bit more, like, quote unquote generous with their raises, or convincing them that a certain policy is absolutely stupid, or a certain policy is going to be the ruin of them. Like, currently some places to this day have the audacity, and I'm going to say the audacity because it is the audacity, to have people sign in a resignation letter with the with the contract, like a statement that says that literally it's like it's called a resignation form, and it is perfectly legal. Like, legally wise, it is perfectly legal. From an ethical point of view, it is very questionable. And if a company does that, especially, and I'm talking mostly about Egypt. So if a company does that in Egypt, run. I'm telling it to you right away, run. Because you're about to get screwed over badly, and there is nothing you can do about it. They can, at any point in time, because you signed that form, they can at any point in time fire you, and you have no rights whatsoever, and it's completely legal. Which is why I say notorious. When I say Egypt, I'm like, it is notorious for this, for like these little like legal loopholes. One of the other loopholes that are there that I actually this one I discovered this is one of the stuff that I discovered, and I was like blown away, because I was like, how, why? And it is called, there's another form that you have to do, and this form is very intrusive, and it is, well, the reason behind it is for healthcare. It is meant for the healthcare community, and it is basically a form that shows that that this person does not have any disabilities, does not have any mental, physical, emotional disabilities that will hinder their job as a medical healthcare. So that's the reason behind that form. And at that point of time, and with that point of thing, yes, it's very ableist, but at the same, and here's, I know this is going to be a little bit of the controversy, but hear me out. Some areas in Egypt, it cannot afford, especially, I mean, you've already seen it with rural medical fields, where they have to be everything. They have to be the psychiatrist, the radiologist, you've seen like YouTubers make fun of that part of like rural medical field. So that's basically it. So that form is done for that specific reason, for saying that if somebody was to be like a one-man doctor or one-woman doctor, then in that case, yeah, pretty much yes, that's basically what this is. But it got used in companies as a disability screening. Freaking as a disability screening. And again, it is perfectly legal. And I'm just sitting there going like, seriously, how? How is this legal? But it's legal. And it's just, yeah, I'm flabbergasted at some of these. And that's, again, this is why I keep saying again, it's notorious. And I completely understand, completely empathize with people who are like, HR is evil. And I'm like, from what I've seen, I can see where you're saying that is evil, because yeah, I agree, I completely agree with you on that part. But then here's the thing is, it is not like, yeah, there are some HRians who actually actively like try and get as much of these like questionable forms in as possible. I have seen it. This is why I said that. This is how I discovered this. I've seen it happen in front of me. Like, I seen it happen in front of me with a post about a person was asking about how things are not going exactly what they want, and they're looking for people to work in their company, and then in the conversation, one of the begrudged employees of that company went and was like, well, you make us sign this form, and this form, and I'm sitting there going like, what form now? Because I'm familiar with the Egyptian labor law, but I'm not familiar with a lot of the forms. So I'm like sitting there going like, what form again? And then I had to actually read it. And the forms that this company made their employees sign, I was like, oh, no wonder no one wants to work for you. No wonder. I'm like, heck, if I was in your place, I'm like, and that HR, like, this HR talks that goes like, oh, well, it is the company policy to sign these forms, and it is for your own good. And I'm like, bullshit. That is a discriminatory, like, that is literally discrimination. And okay, so labor law does the Egyptian labor law does have anti-discriminatory laws, but they are very vague. The only they have the ones that they have for discriminatory are gender and binary gender. Let me just be very clear. Like, there are binary gender ones, and that's all, and even that has its exceptions. If a job is deemed too dangerous for a female, or she will be within the job, she's in a place where there is very considerable amount of quote unquote inconvenience, okay, then the company has the right to be like, oh, this, we're just going to only hire males or females. And I'm like, inconvenience. I mean, that's a nice way of putting of like using another word that I could put in that word. It's flabbergasting. And again, like I said, it is notorious. Because here's the thing is, at the end of the day, your job as an HR human being, as an HR practitioner, is to balance the delicate balance between both, between being the as just as possible to the employees, because we all know that replacing employees is extremely expensive. To replace employees, currently the place that I'm currently working in, we're going on a hire frenzy, but at the same time, I'm like, me and my manager and I pressed the brakes, and we were like, wait a second, we need to make sure that the people we do get in, and we are going to train, and we're going to make everything sure that they're good, are going to be like, oh, I can't handle the pressure, or I can't handle the unit, or I can't handle the times, or I can't handle this or that. I can't handle any of that, and then leave, because then we have to do all of this all over again. And finding good candidates at a decent cost to, like, because at the end of the day, we have to minimize as much cost as we can, but finding decent candidates at like reasonable cost to this one is insanely hard, because the good calibers are extremely expensive for good reasons. They're good calibers. So your question becomes, do I get a high caliber, pay that much, and just have them do, like, because I paid them that much, so I have them do this much? Or do I, as some people say, like, put novice in there for less cost, train them, grow them, and risk them leaving us? And at the same time, I'm like, I would love to watch people, if they've grown and there's nothing I can develop them more as a human being. God, I would love for them to see them, like, go to a different place and be like at a different, be like grow. I mean, I want them to grow. That's the teacher part of me. I want them to grow. But at the same time, as an HR, I'd rather have them be with me as long as possible, as humanly possible. And even that in itself is like, do you want them to be there for you? Do you want that to happen? Do you want this to actually be the case? Do you want all of these things to be the case? And it's fascinating. Like I said, it's very fascinating. And this is why I actually love HR. I love HR because of that constant challenge between what you as a human being want to do and what is the best thing for the company, or the institution, or the school, or whatever. And the reason why I say it's notorious, and it's very notorious in Egypt, because not a lot of people actually that do go into Egypt, into this one, go from it from this point of view. Most of the people that go in for it, the ones that I've seen so far, and begrudgingly, I have to say that they are part of the industry, are dictators in making. There's no other way to describe them or describe that personality except that they're dictators in making. They're basically I'm just gonna, like, they, first of all, they completely ignore a system. Completely ignore it. They just go in and be like, oh, I like this person, so I'm gonna treat this person well, and I don't like this person, so I'm gonna make their life a living hell. That's not HR. HR is very neutral. and you are as neutral, even if you're emotionally, you absolutely despise a human being, and you're like, I just hate this guy, or I hate this girl, or I hate this personality. As an HR practitioner, you gotta swallow that thing off and be like, hey, if this person is a high performer, I have to like suck it up and deal with it. Deal with that attitude, deal with that horrible personality. I have to deal with it because this person is a very good employee. And then if the person is poor, like even if the person is a poor performer, and you're like internally like going yes, because now you can actually do like punishment and things like that, you have to stop yourself and actually have another person do the punishment, because you know yourself, you know that if you actually, because of that emotion, because of that negative emotion, whatever thing you're gonna dish out is going to be most probably going to be unfair, because again there is this emotional part. Or you can actually just like switch it off and be like, okay, so what does the system say? Which, by the way, if an HR person keeps talking about the system and tells you, I'm just following what the system is, trust me on this, okay? Trust me on those words. They are fighting internally because they're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do what the situation is. And it's both cases. Like, it runs both ways. They either want to like be lenient on a person, but they can't do anything about it because the system says so, or they want to be very harsh on a person, but they can't be there again because the system says so. So if a HRian uses the word, and I quote, uses the word, like they use the word system, be very happy that they use that word, because yes, maybe the system for you is unfair, okay? But believe me, they are sitting down there and they're like, this is actually the fairest thing that I can do. And sometimes, like, I tell people, like, for instance, in my case, in my institution, yesterday when I was talking to employees, I'm like, I'm going to close the door today, and I'm very sorry. I know that there are some situations. I'm like, you can send me an email, but the door is going to get closed today. And the reason for the door getting closed today is because we're at the end of the month, so it's salary time, and people are going to get like paid their salaries, and like we're trying to get the payment of the salaries and things like that. But there are some rules and regulations that I need to follow for that as well, and including rules and regulations for things that we warned about, not warned once or twice or 3 times. We warned 5 times for people to actually do certain things, and they have not done, and there are consequences. And I hate that I have to actually do the consequences, and I actually have to really go through with like the warning that we have warned 5 times. But at the same time, I'm doing it now. Right before I'm doing it now, because the way the salaries work in my institution is they get paid on the 10th. So I'm doing it now because I'm in like the most gracious thing I can do, or like the most humblest thing I can do now is it's literally give them a grace period of about 10 days to get, quote unquote, get their shit done, because I want them to get them done. I really want them to get paid. I want them to get paid. I want them to get everything, but they're not going to get paid if they're not going to do the job that they need to do. Sometimes being HR really, this is the dilemma I have every single time that I have to do this job, is because I want to pay these guys up, but at the same time I'm like, there are consequences for not doing the job that you're supposed to do, and yeah, that's just it. Anyways, so yeah, good luck to them. Bye bye.